Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Inner World podcast. I am your host, Dr. Pedro Cortina. In this podcast, we aim to explore the most powerful, efficient, joyful, and sustainable models of inner transformation out there. Thank you for joining us today. Today, let's talk about connection. It's interesting to notice that probably most of us have been socialized to understand connection or perceive connection as something that needs work. We just need to see those endless events around networking and suggestions from leaders and influencers around the importance of making an effort to go out there and connect. And my proposal is not only a little bit different, I would say actually it could be seen as the opposite approach. What I would suggest, connection is something that happens effortlessly, actually, when we are able to remove the internal barriers we have around interacting with others. So the regular official model out there is you have your inner world with your history, your assumptions, your projections, your fear, your trauma if you have it, your apprehensions, etc., etc., etc. And this little package now has to additionally go out there and push itself into connecting with others. Can you see the complication there? Can you see the potential for nothing happening, or for it being counterproductive at times even? But this is mostly the way it goes. Putting ourselves out there, opening up to others, networking, making friends. We know this is an intrinsically difficult thing to do, because human beings, we tend to be guarded, innocently and naturally guarded, to protect ourselves from the unfamiliar or the risky. And just, imagine, just visualize the scene, networking conference where you have thousands of people attending, all with pure good intention of connecting, and they go into this room, 10,000 of them, if you like a good meaty number, and now you have 10,000 people managing their inner cacophony, their inner dysregulation, their inner misalignment, which in and of its own could be a full-time job. But now you have the additional pressure of connecting and mingling and even more building long-lasting relationships or connection. And so what tends to happen in these situations is, first of all, really, alcohol becomes pretty handy, right? It's the social at the end of the conference, and everybody's, looking to connect. And probably most people are going to be looking for that first glass of wine or something like that. That's one thing that we see. The other thing that we see is anxiety, irrelevant conversations, enormous amount of time wasted in pleasantries and the weather, right? As people interact and either wait for the booze to kick in or they just bump into someone that is so perfectly in sync with them or aligned with them in terms of whatever their offer, their principles, their looks, what they wear, whatever, and they kind of feel safe for a bit. So what's this idea about that I mentioned at the beginning of this episode? What's this idea about taking care or addressing what gets in the way of our capacity, of our ability to stay open? Not only in a fabricated networking event or in a special meeting to meet people or in a, speed dating event, whatever. What gets in the way of our ability to just be available, be open? Be available, be open. I've been hearing this notion of being in the present moment for the last several few decades, and it has always felt weird and incomplete to me, strangely limiting and incredibly narrow. And probably it is because, in my perception, the present moment is this kind of isolated now, that probably a poor understanding on my part, but that feels disconnected from who we are, because we are everything we've been, we are everything we have been, and we are everything we will be right now. So I don't like to use this notion of being in the present moment because it feels tight and it feels contrived. I know. Probably people that use it are trying to point towards a more wholesome experience of being, and I applaud that, but I prefer to use other language. For example, when I say addressing what gets in the way of remaining open and available, that to me is a closer definition of being in that space. open and available. You can't be open and available if your mind is sequestered by your past or your future, so you're pretty much in the present. And also when you're open and available, you are your whole self. You are the entirety of who you've been and the entire potential of who you will be. And in this capacity, your accessibility to past resources or potential resources is not limited by abstractions of time and space. So, this ability to stay open and available. Additionally to that, the notion of resting in that openness and that availability, I think it is important. Resting or having the capacity to relax into that openness and that availability is also very important for the exploration we're engaging in this moment. So connection happens naturally when there is no obstacle to it. Let me say this again. Connection happens naturally when there is no obstacle to it, when there's no interference. What are these obstacles and what's this interference we're talking about? Obstacles and interference are hardened assumptions, projections, anticipations, beliefs that are swirling around our everyday perceptual interaction with ourselves and others. Assumptions, projections that have not been examined, that have not been reviewed or checked or questioned or inquired into. These assumptions and projections and beliefs could easily be, for many people, what represents most of their lived experience. How many of us spend most of our time ruminating and circling around and poking and pushing and trying to resolve and fix our life, interacting with this level of awareness only, with our projections, with our fears, with our assumptions. Not to our fault, because this is something we just learned to do, because that's what we've been innocently told would be our best approach or our best way to address that inner instability or that inner conundrum. It was interesting. I was watching a comedian the other day, and the comedian was telling this story about how many of his friends, or most of his friends now, are all into psychedelic drugs for the purposes of personal growth and transformation. And it was so funny because this comedian was saying, I will never, ever try psychedelics. I've invested so much time locking everything up inside. Just so much time locking up everything inside, thoughts, emotions, beliefs, assumptions, just really, really locking them up inside. For someone to come with a mushroom or something like that and unlock the whole madhouse. And it was funny, but it's sad also at the same time, because it points precisely to this condition that we somehow learned from tradition, family, society, in many cases science and psychology, in many cases the official approach to mental health, or in some cases just our friends trying to be supportive and trying their best to give us a hand when we're going through difficult circumstances in our lives. And the end result generally would be this trying to tie up the whole swirling madhouse inside in a way that is viable for survival. And most people, the great majority of people, we succeed in doing that, and we become relatively functional individuals as we tighten things up. Problem is, in the long run, it doesn't work if what we aspire to in life is a genuine experience of happiness and transcendence, a sense of purpose and well-being, because this hardened, tied-up approach promotes survivability, so stability for the purposes of survival. Our survivalist mechanisms, as we've discussed in other episodes, are not interested in happiness and transcendental well-being. They're interested in survivability. And if that implies that we are going to have a tied up, stressful, tense, ruminating inner experience with tendencies to generalized anxiety disorder or depression, then our survivalist mechanisms are totally okay with that. They're just interested in keeping us viable into an age where we assume we have achieved reproduction, and we've achieved setting the next generation up so that the species can continue. Other than that, no interest in happiness or inner freedom or transcendence. So this is something that, if we're interested in exploring or pursuing, we need to take on our own and personally, and begin this process of inner exploration to actually get to know and discover how is it that our inner world works, and how is it that we actually can develop the conditions and the inner circumstances to allow for availability, spaciousness, and openness to manifest, instead of the traditional and very, very innocent tie-up, hardening, structuring internal model
we've been taught that works. So there's an example I have of myself recently. This is generally a quite anxious little boy growing up, product of intense loss and trauma, and a few other experiences of disconnection, parental disconnection. And so a little bit on the anxiety side of things myself, and especially in social circumstances sometimes. And this is just how the body reacts and what the body does and the emotions do to protect ourselves. So never really felt while growing up as someone that could interact much or have connections. That changed in early adulthood, or teenage years, particularly thanks to our good friend the booze, and that definitely helped to kind of open up and make a few friends, especially in the rowdy teenage years and early adulthood. And then throughout my more subsequent adulthood, it was the anxiety was always there. We know alcohol is a temporary palliative, but not a solution. That's very, very clear. And as I got curious and explored my own inner system and the conditions that it was in, and slowly working and supporting and updating and finding that inner space and allowing and relaxing into that inner space, etc., it has become radically different. I've been interested in doing improv lately, and I was in an improv class the other day, and at some point I felt a little bit of the social tension offness for a second, and it was so beautiful. It was so easy to just notice it and kindly and gently move back to this sense of openness and curiosity and wonder, and be able to relax back into it. And it was a little bit of a flashback of what my experience used to be when interacting in social circumstances, in social environments. And basically the path in my experience towards developing our ability to relax into a space of openness is to be able to relax into whatever circumstance we are experiencing internally. It's like a muscle. It's like a training that we do. It's like, generally speaking, when we experience discomfort, we tense up and our mind jumps into fixed mode. And what we need to learn and what we need to integrate now, and what we need to do, practice enough for it to become our first nature, is that any and every time that there's dissonance or discomfort or misalignment internally, instead of tightening it up and pouncing into fix. The invitation is to open up and allow. Open up and allow. Curiously allow. And this allowing curiosity that we bring into that space is an exquisite guiding lamp in this new approach to our inner world. Because instead of jumping into fixing and patching and tying things up, it moves into a space of relaxation in wonderment. What is this? Where is this coming from? Why does it feel this way? What is it connected to? When does this come up? What are the circumstances, the conditions? And you see, that's it. The beauty with open curiosity is that it is in itself what updates our internal situation. In other words, this wondering, genuine curiosity is what fixes, truly fixes, not temporarily. It fixes the condition. Why does it fix the condition? Because we understand. We get it. We go, oh, this is why I react when these things are happening, and we just understand. And we can link it to events in the past or things we learned on how to react or certain assumptions we made about certain situations or emotional experiences. And as we develop a capacity to open in wonderment and genuine curiosity when engaged by any form of internal misalignment, that same curiosity will automatically, effortlessly, if we keep at it, if we don't rush it, if we allow it, that genuine, heart-centered curiosity will result in the clarification of the condition, will result in insight, will result in, I get it. And as soon as we get it, our defense mechanisms drop. As soon as we get it, we naturally move into openness. As soon as we get it, we naturally grateful. As soon as we get it, we want to be more available instead of less or hiding. So this is the invitation. In order to be able to, and especially nowadays with this whole isolation pandemic around the world, what's happening is you have millions and millions and millions of people just caught up in their little circle of reaffirmation of their internal tight, crunched defensive structure. With the model constantly being reaffirmed by our social media preferences, by our algorithms, by what social media knows we like. So just like being caught in being in prison, thinking it's just life. Thinking there's no other option or no better option, or simply no other existing possibility. So the invitation would be to practice this, and it's we can practice anytime throughout the day, because it happens throughout the day. Every time that we notice tension or internal misalignment, instead of tightening up and jumping into fixing, explore the possibility of opening up, relaxing into it, and getting genuinely curious about it. Genuinely curious about it means open-ended curiosity. It doesn't mean agenda-driven curiosity. I'm not saying get genuinely curious so you can fix it and patch it and pack it. I'm saying get genuinely curious so you remain open. You remain in this, you relax into this space of wonder. If there's things that you need to see, you will see them. If there's action that will need to be taken, you will take it. That is very clear and easy. You don't need to live your life tied up in a knot in order to be able to make decisions and move forward with your life. You can make decisions and move forward with your life while you enjoy and relax into the essence of who you are in an open, creative, and genuinely curious way. Thank you for joining us today, and see you next time.